Strange things are afoot at the Circle K. Are you a god?
I'd buy that for $1.
What are you?
Jungweile? Wie Jungweile?
I'm Batman.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
We have such sights to show you.
We're here. We're just about to record this and go watch The Money Pit today.
Yeah, I'm excited for The Money Pit. I love this movie.
I'm loving doing this one because I watch a lot of home renovation shows with Mommy.
Mm-hmm.
I watch Fixer Upper. I watch Love It or List It.
Mm-hmm.
I watch House Hunters Renovation. I watch House Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
I watch a lot of house hunting and renovation shows.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
We also
remember.
watched the organizing shows. We watched a bunch of them in Marie Kondo. We did a whole KonMari in our house. Like it's been a big deal.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing at that?
I don't know.
Because it was so much work?
Maybe. And then we're all looking back at it and the ants are still there.
Okay. All right.
All that work, we got a lot of stuff done, but the still stupid ants are still there. But this is supposed to be about watching movies, not about some stupid
Well, but
ants.
that is like, well, wait till you see the movie because there's lots of issues. But like we are having an ant problem in our house. It is a crisis. It's a lot
and we
of
don't even have food back in our bedrooms, and all the ants are in
Whoa,
there.
whoa. We don't have food back in our bedrooms because I don't ever put food in my bedroom, unlike somebody that I know who will constantly sneak food to her bedroom. Which is fine. I just want you to throw it away when you're done.
I do.
But no, we got like carpenter ants, which they don't go after food, and we've got those black sugar ants, which they do go after food, but there's no food. So I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the weather change, but it's something in our area. We are overrun by ants right now.
Maybe because we always keep our house warm enough so it's not like super hot, and then a lot of ants like that. So maybe they're trying to turn our house into an ant burrow.
Dude, your mom and I were watching TV last night. We were watching Santa Clarita Diet, which, whatever, doesn't matter. But while we were watching it, carpenter ant crawled across the screen. And I thought it was part of the movie. And then I was like, oh, no, that's just an ant in our house. Wow, boy, this is getting out of control. Maybe we have too many ants in our house.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Yesterday, while we were going to bed last night, a carpenter ant walked across the top of my ceiling upside down.
No.
It was like, and it started at the corner closest to the bed with like the starlight thing that shines into the metal of my ceiling, and it walked into a diagonal all the way to the other corner of the room where my closet is, which is like, why would it do that? Like, it's not like there's like flies up there to eat, and carpenter ants don't even eat flies.
Yeah, this is the thing about the ants in the house. The ants, the sugar ants and the carpenter ants don't bother me because they don't bite. They're just a bit annoying, and they go away after a while. Whatever it is that causes them to swarm into our house, I don't know, but they go away.
Maybe
but the
because it's
problem is
cold.
that what's going to happen is our spider population is going to explode because food source is so high right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not
And we
looking forward
just
to
got
that.
rid of all the spiders.
Right. I hate spiders. I am not a fan
Well,
of
they're
spiders.
not that bad because they do take care of all the naughty stuff. Like spiders in cornfields, a lot of farmers go to stores, go to animal stores and buy spiders so that and ladybugs and stuff, and then they put them in their field because spiders and ladybugs don't eat the plants. They eat the animals that do try to eat the plants. It's like spiders would eat the ants that try to take the corn, and they would also, and scarecrows would sort of like scare off the crows.
So that's interesting that you say that, actually. You know, your mom and I were at the Last Weekend Film Festival at the Allenwood Draft House in Winchester, Virginia, which is a lot of fun. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It's great. But while we were
like twice a year.
it's a twice a year film festival. It lasts 3.5 days. This last year there were 46 films that you could choose from, and if you were the sickest of sick individuals, you could watch 26 movies in 3.5 days. I did not make 26 movies this year. Your mom and I did about 12. But my point is, one of the movies that we watched, it might have been the opening night documentary film, was called The Biggest Little Farm. Mm-hmm. And it was about people who would use nature to combat problems that they were running into. So, like, when they would have a snail problem of the snails eating their apple orchard trees, they would find something that would eat snails and like introduce that into their farm. I don't think spiders eat snails. I forget what they did. They had, like, ducks. The ducks eat the snails. So they would put the ducks in there, and then the ducks would poop, and it would make the soil better. And they would eat the snails, and the ducks, they wouldn't then have to feed their ducks on their farm because the ducks were eating the snails. So it was win-win-win. Anyways, we're way off topic. What is the Money Pit about? I'm going to click over to our, IMDb. And this time we're going to try out the storyline feature.
Because their actual summary is literally talking...
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and read the sentence that IMDb has put to the Money Pit.
This is, like, terrible. A young couple struggles to repair a hopelessly dilapidated house.
Dilapidated means, like, run down or broken.
And, yeah...
And that doesn't really tell you anything.
That doesn't tell you anything. Now, the storyline is fine. It's not like what we normally read, but it at least tells what the story is.
All right, go ahead and read the storyline.
Walter Fielding and Anna Crowley have to start looking for a new house, but there's not much they can afford.
Oh, been there.
This soon changes when they meet a lonely old con artist who sells them a beautiful mansion at a ridiculously low price. Only there's a catch. The second they move into the house, it falls apart, starting with the stairway collapsing to the bathtub, falling through the floor, to eventually the chimney falling into the house. Finally, they have to renovate the house before the frame collapses. But the renovations also prove to be a disaster.
I mean, that's a description of a movie. Events definitely unfold, and they have to do with home renovation. So are you excited to watch the movie?
Yeah, but honestly, if you find, because I remember in the trailer it said, like, well, this guy said that this house was like $500, and this house looks so nice. Right. Like, I can't imagine why it would be $500. Mm-hmm. They walk in and they're like, oh, that's why. But honestly, for a house that bad, I would want to pay like $20 for a house that bad. Like, $500 doesn't even seem fit for a house that, like...
How much should a house cost?
A normal house, like, that doesn't have to be renovated at all. It's like super perfect, unless you wanted to do like fixer-upper or something. Then probably like around like... maybe from 50,000 to like, I don't know, $100,000 probably. And then for the worst house, like that house, I'd pay like, I would say that should be like $5. Because, like, this house should be, like, wrecked with a wrecking ball and rebuilt.
So, like, home prices have a lot to do with the area that you live in, based on how many people are there. Not in our neighborhood, but just in this general area of Northern Virginia. I bet your average house price, as far as we are from D.C., is about $400,000. Wow. And the closer you get, the more, like, a home like our size will go from... $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 to $600,000 to $700,000 or $800,000, depending on where it's located at in relation to like a major city or something like that, where there's high demand for property. But further out to the Midwest, a house this size may only go for $120,000, $150,000. It just depends on where you are in the world. It's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well.
In that case, I would say $50 for that house.
Right. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say, or should we go watch the movie?
I want to watch the movie.
All right.
But I just want to tell everyone that we have a good bonus episode coming up.
That's true.
April.
That's true.
We have a really good one.
Yeah. Claire's excited about it. All right, but it's a secret, so we can't
Yes.
tell anybody.
We can't tell anybody until it's the week before we do that bonus episode.
Right.
So, like normal, I'm going to end this podcast out and then start it up again in the post. So, see you guys later. We'll be back for the post after we watch The Money Pit. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Little problem in the kitchen. Nothing trivial.
Well, the turkey's done.
So's the kitchen. Actually, it's a little overdone for my taste. Let's not go there again.
You don't want to tell me what happened?
No, I don't. I just want to relax in a nice lukewarm bath.
What about this?
I don't think that can hurt us anymore.
Just finished watching The Money Pit. So I have not used my one Bill or Billy yet in this segment, so I'm gonna use it now.
Okay.
So, what do you prefer to be called, Billy or Bill?
If I had to choose, my friends call me Billy. I guess my coworkers call me Bill. Your mom calls me Billy, and I very strongly prefer that you call me Dad or Daddy.
But I'm saying, like, when I use my one Bill or Billy, what should I use it?
Oh, I think you should use Bill, because that's in the podcast title, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Bill. So, what did you think of the movie?
I love The Money Pit. Especially, it's, I guess, sort of an open secret at this point. But, we are thinking about moving from where we are, and we've gone into the process of, like, searching out good value homes in different places.
One's like that one.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the
but
nightmare.
not like that bad.
Right? That's the nightmare scenario. You find a deal too good to be true, and then you take it anyways.
And then you're like, this is why.
Yeah, this is why it was so cheap, because it's horrible, and it's a nightmare, and you're locked into it, and there are no good answers. It's terrifying. I love this movie. What did you think about it?
I thought it was pretty awesome, but I think the Money Pit house is better than the house that he used stolen money from the band to buy.
The dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree too. Although I would like a waterfront house in Rio de Janeiro. Sounds pretty nice. I
think Grammy's house is better because the water's in the back and you wouldn't have to like sail. And there's like no like driveway.
Right.
And you wouldn't have to like park your boat in front of your house.
I see. Okay. What else did you think about the movie?
I don't understand how the owner can be fine with it going up the stairs and down the stairs and everywhere, and so can the two other guys, the mom, Tom Hanks and
Shelley Long.
Yeah, Tom Hanks and Shelley Long.
Yeah. So she's a con artist. So she's a con artist, which means
a con artist?
Yeah, which means she tricks people into thinking that a deal that they're getting is very good when it's not. So like.
Oh, now I get it. Con means not, so not artist.
Actually, I don't know what con is. I think con is its own word. I just want to search that now.
We can't just ask Alexa.
I don't know what the rules are about having Alexa record onto a podcast. So con. Persuade. You're shushing Alexa, not me.
Yeah.
Okay. Con is to persuade someone to do or believe something, typically by use of deception. And the synonyms for that are swindle, defraud, cheat, trick, fleece, dupe, deceive, rook. That's my favorite. I love rook. Exploit, squeeze, milk, bleed. God, these are great synonyms. So a con is just a trick. Like they have $1 million house and Right, like you'd milk a cow.
Oh.
Right. So
Con a cow?
yeah, no. Yeah, it goes in a different direction there. So the trick for this particular house is that she says that she's selling it for cheap because she has to get out of the country. But she doesn't actually have to get out of the country. She's selling it for cheap because the house is a piece of garbage. Everything in it is broken. So when they got to the house, and a good example of this is when they got to the house, right, and she's taking them on the tour, and they're upstairs, and he says, hey, can I use your bathroom? She says, oh, actually, could you use the one downstairs because this one has all my personal stuff in it? But I bet it didn't have any of her personal stuff in it. She just didn't want them to go in that bathroom and see where none of the plumbing worked. Maybe the water only worked in that bathroom downstairs. Or when they're going upstairs originally, she lights the candle and they're like, wait, why are you lighting candles to go upstairs? And she says, oh, well, I'm trying to save money so that I can pay these blood-sucking lawyers. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I guess I believe that. But in reality, she's using the candles
because the lighting doesn't work.
Exactly. So that's how she's tricking them and conning them into buying this house. None of the stuff actually works for her when she's living there. It's all an illusion that she creates that the house does work. And she doesn't give them enough time to look at it in order to find out for their own that they're being tricked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then how come... But then what did she say when they were going up the stairs? Because she was like, because he was like, what's the matter with the stairs? Because they're like creaking really bad. And she's like, oh, something.
Oh, yeah, I think she just says that they're old and that one stair is particularly creaky. Because that's what she calls attention to it. And she says, oh, there's a trick stair. That one needs to be fixed, but it'll be fine, or something like that, right?
It's really the whole staircase that is going to fall.
Which so that's a good, maybe a good segue is like, what did you think of all of the slapstick comedy and the physical comedy in the movie? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
What was your favorite one?
Wait, what's the slapstick comedy?
So what I'm talking about is like the comedy where like Tom Hanks does like physical comedy, like he falls downstairs or gets his fingers stepped on.
My favorite was the one where he gets stuck in the carpet and he's like,
Nobody laughs at Sherman whatever. I'm tearing up your permits. But, I love when he sinks into the carpet. It's my favorite because to me, that's like Tom Hanks' character in a nutshell. Like he's got his arms all up in his chest and he's looking at his wallet and he realizes he's sinking and he takes no action to prevent himself from getting stuck. He's like, wait, what's going on? I'm sinking very slowly. And then he gets his chest pinned with his arms in it. Whereas if he had just gone, oh no, and shot his arms out to the side, he would have been fine. He would have been
able to go there.
Yeah. Exactly. He would have been able to get out or pull himself out or let himself fall through instead of having these little baby T-Rex arms. I got a giant head and little arms. What else was good? Did you enjoy?
The part where the stairs fall and he's like, please help. And then she's like, does this help? It's like, you're stepping on my fingers. It's literally like the only thing keeping him up there. And then she steps back and he's like,
I like when he lands on the stairs and then he puts his leg like he's kind of reclining, but he's actually laying on a bunch of broken stairs. How much must that have hurt?
I don't know.
But that was like, were you awake the other night when the doorbell in our house broke? Were you up there for that? When the whole upstairs smelled like burning rubber. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we didn't know what it was? Like,
it smelled terrible and I was like,
So our doorbell was broken and it has been broken for a long time.
And the fuse broke or something, which made the smell.
So the ding dong part of the button at the front door. That's not the ding dong part. The ding dong part is The thing that makes the ding dong sound.
wire.
That's totally wrong.
The wire.
Yeah, no, the button at the door has been missing for a long time, and so the wire has been sticking out of the front of our house.
And then a lot
not
of people
doing
kept
anything.
taking the wire and pushing it inside and taking it out to do the wire. It would have been fine, most likely, if people would just leave that alone.
Yeah,
but all the neighbors.
Alas. Oh, it's the neighbors?
Yeah, all the neighbors
never
kept
you
going
kids,
in.
Right?
No, we didn't even know. We
Genuine?
we were so used to that we didn't even realize there was no button. We thought that it came like that, so we never like touched it or anything.
Yeah.
But then all the neighbors saw the wire was sticking out, and all their houses had doorbells, so they were like, "Oh, this must be the doorbell part." Ding dong.
Yeah,
ding
but
dong.
the ding dong part had broken a long time ago, and so I guess somebody was playing outside, or somebody came in, maybe a delivery person pushed that wire in accidentally, and it crimped, so the electric current was engaged, but the bell wasn't ringing, and that bell rings by pushing electric current through it, and it like pushes against something, I guess, because of the electric current, and that little motor burnt out because it is not designed to just be engaged. And so like it was the middle of the night, and your mom and I figured out that the thing was melting inside of this doorbell thing, and we were like, I don't know anything about electrical wiring, Claire. Anything.
And then like 2 days later, so like that night, you called an electrical person and they were like, "Sorry, you'll have to wait until tomorrow to call."
Yeah.
Next day, we got someone saying that there would be an electrical person coming today. Where's that stupid person? Oh, sorry, that's gonna be coming tomorrow. We were lying because it was like in the middle of the night, because it was like 2 a.m. in the morning and all the people were asleep. So so it'll be there tomorrow. Bye.
But that's like, of all the stuff that's exaggerated in the Money Pit, like the challenge of getting people to come out to your house to fix stuff is for real. And
it's not even in a movie, because like it's really hard,
right?
And
but
a
like,
lot of money.
But when you don't know how any of this stuff works, like I don't know how any of the electrical wiring works. Like he goes in that kitchen, right, in the movie, and he flips the light switch on the kitchen, and it starts like this Mission Impossible fuse burning, where like the wire burns all throughout the kitchen and explodes the oven, and the turkey flies out or whatever.
I remember that. He was like. And it lands in their water bucket.
But it's hard. And I mean, I think you've watched a bunch of like home renovation shows, right? When people get more than they bargain for, it's extremely stressful.
And in like one of the Love It or List It shows, they were trying to fix the oven, and it turns out there was like an old piece of food in there that someone had cooked, but it was like, because they were trying to use the oven the day before, it didn't work, so it was like that from the day before, and then they opened the oven, and it turns out the oven had like something wrong with it, so that when new air came in, all the air pressure would just like poof.
Oh man.
So like through whatever food was there, woof, in their faces, and it turns out it was like macaroni and cheese or something, and it was just like oozing down their face, and then the realtor, and then the girl who was trying to fix the house to make him love it again, she pushed it back from her face and said, "This is disgusting." And said, well, she didn't say that, but I'm guessing that she would be thinking about that in her head. But what she actually said was, "This is gonna be a lot of work."
But that's the scary part about owning a home, is that like you have all this stuff that needs to get done, and it's like, where does the money come to do it, and how do you figure it out, and how do you solve problems to which you don't even understand what's going on? Like, how do you solve an electrical wiring problem in your house, like a doorbell, when you don't understand how electricity works? Like, I don't have any special knowledge of that. I know that there's a circuit breaker over there that if I turn off the electrical power in the house, I will not die if I fiddle with that electrical wiring. That is the only knowledge I have for electrical wiring, how not to die while doing something with it. It's scary. It's scary. Like, what did you think of their whole idea of like trying to build up that house? Did you think that that was a good idea? Do you think that they did it wrong? Should they have done something better or different? What did you think about that?
I kind of feel like, because when you saw it, it was like the outside was almost pretty much done. And then 2 days later, how? What? You guys said that you would be done today. And it's like from square one.
Yeah.
When like 2 days before, it was like, oh yeah, like one more square will be finished and then we can move on inside.
Claire's looking disinterestedly at her fingernails.
2 days later, you guys said you would be done now. Sorry, we're waiting for our check.
Do you think that they should have bought the house?
Honestly, if I were them, I wouldn't have listened to her and went in the bathroom and tried to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And then I would be like, you did not tell me about this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's an important thing to figure out. Like, if the house that you're getting is actually the house that you think that you're getting, right? Like, no matter what anybody tells you, if you don't have time to verify it.
So she said that there was like legs in the plumbing part. I don't think that that's what happened. I thought that it was like, I think a lot of times people use the expression, there's legs in this pipe. It normally means there's like a lot of mold or something, or like something disgusting inside it. So I think that's what she was talking about. She was like saying, this thing is disgusting. Go in and see for yourself. And he's like, you're over exaggerating, honey.
Yeah,
Go look inside.
What did you think of the fact that, like, every time something bad happened, Tom Hanks tried to talk down the seriousness of it to Shelley Long? Like, she was like, this is terrible. This plumbing is disgusting, and I wanted to take a bath, and it like, shot out goo, like, leggy, disgusting goo at me instead, and that's a huge problem, isn't it? And he was like, no, it's fine, it's fine.
We'll get a plumber tomorrow.
Do you think that that's a good approach to a relationship, to have somebody tell somebody that the problems that they're worried about aren't real?
No.
How come?
Because if you have a problem with your plumbing, you should probably inspect about that instead of saying, oh, it's fine, we'll be done tomorrow.
Right. I mean, yeah, plumbing problems are definitely serious, and they, like, you have to, like, a water problem is a water problem, and it's always immediate. But, like, I think what I really am curious what you think about is, like, what did you think about how they interacted with each other to deal with all the problems that they were facing? Did they do a good job or a bad job?
I'm not really sure, but I have something about what are their interactings. I don't think it's that good, because she was like, okay, I guess I trust you. Or I would be like, well, you gotta go look at that. I'm telling you, something is wrong with that plumbing, and if you don't go look, we're done, son.
What do you think that says about their relationship?
I think it's saying, like, she trusts him too well.
You think she trusts him too well?
I think she trusts him, like, way, way too well. Because, like, she's saying, well, I guess I believe in you. 4 months later, yes, it's finally done. But you said it would be done tomorrow. But you said it would be done 4.5 months ago.
So
son.
Do you think that their problem... Do you think that that's a problem with each other? Or do you think that that's a problem where they both assume that fixing up the house would be easier than it was?
I think it's a problem both communicating and fixing up the house when it's
What do you mean by
not
communicating?
Because she's like saying, okay, I guess I trust you. And he's like, oh, good, you trust me, because if you don't, oh, we're going to have a problem.
But that becomes a major issue for them, right?
Yeah.
Like,
because they're not communicating well, which leads to a bad relation, which leads to, like, not getting a lot of fights in front of your kids, because you're, like, both trying to figure out how to parent your kids, and then you go one way, the person goes the other, and the kids are like, huh?
Well, I don't know what you mean there, because they didn't have kids in the movie. So can you explain what you're getting at?
I'm saying, like, if you have bad communication, a lot of times something bad will happen. Like, I watched a show called Motown Magic, and in it they were trying to make a pie called honey apple pie.
Okay.
And they weren't, like, communicating with each other and doing jobs and everything, so they put too much of each thing, which made the pie taste taste too sour, too sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So like they didn't know what happened because they all did the same thing. They did each one. So there was too much honey, too much sugar, too much salt.
Mm-hmm.
So like
I think what you're saying about communication is kind of interesting because, in relationships, when you love somebody very much,
you need to be able to communicate.
Well, yeah, but it's because I think the importance of that, though, is because, like, I love your mom very much. And so a lot of times she and I will assume that the other one is thinking the same thing, right? Like that we're on the same page. But we're not always on the same page. And if, like, I assume that we just think the same thing and I don't talk to her exactly about what I'm thinking.
And then that causes a lot of fights about, like, well, you said you were going to do this. I never said I was going to do that. Yes, you did.
Well, it can cause problems. I mean, it can cause fights, but it can cause problems or frustrations that don't need to be there because we don't communicate enough. And those failures, like simple things, can seem like a big deal because your assumption that the other person is thinking the same thing that you are is based on the fact that you love each other. And it weirdly puts this idea that, like, well, wait a second, if we didn't assume how we were going to prepare this pie together the same way, maybe it means that we're not as in love as we thought we are. And all of a sudden, this thing about a pie becomes such a much bigger issue. And that's kind of what happens with them in the money pit, right? Is that they both assumed that it would work out a certain way, and then they struggled with whether or not their relationship was strong.
And that brings me back to the kid thing, because if they both think that they did one, if they both do the same thing, or they both don't do the same thing, it can cause a major problem with trying to raise kids.
Sure.
Because then they'll be like, you never said that to me. And then she's like, and then the mom is like, no, the father did. And then she's like, no one said this to me. I didn't know about this. And then she's like,
so communication is important.
And then in another movie that I watched, they both assumed they did it. The other assumed that the other did it. So like it was a big fight about. So it was a big fight about going to buy the permit to fix up. So it was like, so it's a show about something, I can't remember, but they had to get a permit to do something, and they both forgot to do it. They both thought that the other would do it, and then they were like, but you were going to do it. No, I thought you were going to do it. I thought you were going to do that. So they both thought that the other would do it for them so that they could do the other thing. Then they both had something that they thought that the other would do instead of talking it over with each other before they did it. So like I think it was like the permit to like search, like they were like detectives or something, and they were trying to get the permit to search someone's house or something. And
well, but there's a thing like this at the beginning of the money pit, right? So they're in the maestro's house. Shelley Long and Tom Hanks are living in the maestro's house, and they both knew that the maestro was going to come back, and he shows up early. And Shelley Long starts freaking out, and she's mad and says it's her fault. And Walter immediately says to her, well, hang on a second. We both knew that he was going to come back within a year, and neither of us did it. And I thought that was a really good relationship moment because Walter didn't let her take the blame for something that both of them had the responsibility to fix. It shares that responsibility so that when they find a solution, he's not fixing her mistake. They're working to fix a problem that they share together, which I think is good for the relationship.
Honestly, if someone's away, this is a good life lesson. Don't go in someone else's house in the movie, Shelley Long was the ex-wife of Max, who's the maestro, whatever. Yeah. And she's like, well, I'm his ex-wife. Right. So, while we're away, I guess he wouldn't mind if I just borrowed his house, so that we could get some money and all that. So,
but they don't borrow the house. Like, so that's a big thing about divorce, though, is like when you get divorced, you have to decide how to share like your mutual property, right? Yeah. And that I didn't really understand. Is like, what terms of divorce wind up with her living in the house for a year while the maestro is gone? I guess she didn't wind up with anything, and he agreed to let her stay while he was out of the country. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But definitely, if you're living in somebody's house in New York and they're coming back, you really gotta be prepared to move somewhere else, don't you think?
Yeah. Honestly, if you weren't even prepared to, if you knew that they were going to come back and you weren't prepared to do anything else, why were you there in the first place?
It's kind of like, I think that they put themselves in a position where they had no time to find an answer to something. And even though that lady was a con artist, they really kind of set themselves up to be taken advantage of because they had no other choices. And they put themselves in a tight spot. Who do you like? Okay.
And because they were so worried about getting a house, they didn't even realize, well, it doesn't look, well, you said that you were in a hurry to get out of the house, so, and I don't see a lot of your personal things, I just see a lot of stuff. Yeah. So why would there be personal things in the bathroom if you said, so remember when they walked in,
at the house that they buy, yeah.
The con artist said that she'd already packed up all her things and was ready to move or something. Oh,
yeah, she does, doesn't she?
And then she says, well, you can't go in there. All of my personal stuff is in there. And then they don't even remember what she said. That she said that she was already packed to go. And if you're already packed to go, your personal stuff wouldn't still be in a bathroom. So they didn't put too much thought because they were so worried about getting a house that they didn't even realize that.
Right. It's so funny to me that that's the part that you key in on, which is correct. Like, you're correct. That's absolutely a hole in her story. But to me, if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like, I'm like, wait, why are you moving? And they're like, oh, yeah, Israeli intelligence came to me and said my husband used to be Hitler's pool boy. I would be like, what now? That doesn't make sense. No, there's something I want to talk about, though. So at the end of the movie, after it comes out that Max says that Shelley Long slept with him, and she tells Walter that she slept with Max, right?
But it turns out that she actually didn't.
Right, turns out that she actually didn't. But they were having a big problem in their relationship because of that, which I think is pretty normal thing to have to deal with. You asked a question in the middle of it, and I said we should talk about that later, but I don't remember what the question was. Do you remember?
I think I said, well, he said that he would be fine with it, so how come they're having this big problem about it? Right. Okay, so Walter clues in that something funny happened while he was out of town, and he asked if Shelley Long cheated on him with her ex-husband, Max. And Shelley Long says, well, no, I didn't. And then she confesses in the middle of the night, and he freaks out. Why do you think that he got very upset after he said he wouldn't get upset? What do you think about that? Maybe because a lot of times when you go to sleep, a lot of times you forget what you said the day, like right before you did. So maybe he forgot that he had said that, and then he got so upset because, one, she shouldn't have told it from square one instead of telling him in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You think she should have been honest straight away? Yeah, and also, honestly, she knew that he was a trickster. It's like this goes back. Yeah, she already knew that he was a trickster, and that's why she gave up on living with him and all that. Because he's selfish and has no values other than loving himself. Other than loving himself, and he lies and is a trickster a lot. So why does he even believe him in the first place when he says that she slept with him, and she doesn't even remember him? Right. Because if she doesn't remember it, and then she knows he's a trickster, honestly, I wouldn't believe, if I was in her spot, I wouldn't believe that I slept with him. I would say, well, one, I don't remember that happening. 2, I know that you take advantage of things because you're a trickster. 3, you were on a roll and you got the 3. I feel like you didn't have a 3 ready. Okay, let me try that again. So 1... No, let's not go back to that. But no, I think that you're, like, that's kind of an interesting point, though. Like, it really seems like the common problem amongst all of their problems... No, I remember 3. ...is that, like, Tom Hanks and Shelley Long don't think enough about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And also, I remembered the 3. And also, I know that you're a trickster and that you take advantage of a lot of things, and I don't remember... I can probably come to the conclusion that I probably slept in here or I slept in the living room. And then you either carried me in here if I was slept in the living room or you got in bed to wake me up and pretend like this happened. Because I know, because based on my inner knowledge, I know that this didn't happen.
But don't you think it's a huge mistake on Shelley Long's part to even go to Max's place in the first place?
True, because honestly, if he thinks that the whole symphony did a good job, he should be inviting the whole symphony.
Right. Like, I think that she's obviously emotionally upset because she's been living in a hovel, a dump, a garbage fire for 4 months, however long they've been there. And, like, the promise of a warm bath and a chef-prepared meal is, I think, too much to pass up for her. But going to her ex-husband's house and then drinking too much that she can't even remember what happened the night before does not seem like good choice-making, whether or not she ultimately slept with Max. Like, she put herself in a position to be tricked again, which is kind of what happened in the first part of the movie, right? On the other hand, Max is kind of a dirtbag for tricking her into that. Like, do you think that Max is actually tricking her? Do you think that they slept together, or do you think that Max at the end of the movie tells her a lie that will make her feel better so that he can fix their relationship?
He's selfish, right?
Yeah.
So probably not.
Yeah.
I think he just wanted to make things right, because even if he wanted her to be his girlfriend or wife again, you wouldn't say, you wouldn't want her to think that it was all his fault. So I don't think he told a lie. I think he wanted the relationship to be fixed so that if the relationship goes wrong, it's not all his fault.
Maybe the only thing that Max loves more than himself is the symphony, and her leaving the symphony was too much for him to handle, so he had to fix it on the spot, no matter what it cost him. Interesting.
I don't think so. I think he just wanted her back, or maybe that too. But I think he wanted her back, and if he wanted her back, he wouldn't want the relationship to leave all his fault. Because if it left all his fault, he wouldn't be able to she wouldn't go off saying, okay, I guess so. Because it was all his fault that the relationship ruined. That the relationship would have ruined, because he's the one in the first place who lied and said, or even if they did do that,
right? He
was the one who actually said, well, yeah, you did sleep with me, but that means your relationship, but in his head, that means his relationship is going to be over, so I'll get her back. He.
It's a pretty evil plan.
Later in the movie, she's not gonna want to be my wife again if the relationship ends, because it's all my fault. So even if this did happen, I don't want it to end like that, all my fault, because then I won't get her.
Right. Well, let's see. We've been talking for a while. Is there anything about the money pit that we haven't talked about that you think that we should?
All the special effects.
What do you think about all that? What stands out to you?
I think what's pretty cool is the house that looks like so you know those old time cellars?
Yep.
Like in the 1800s, where the cellars, instead of being like a basement or something, it's like two doors outside your house with a big hole. Like that. And I remember one in the Benjamin Franklin Museum or something. The Monticello, right?
Those are separate things.
So,
Monticello is Thomas Jefferson's home, and the Benjamin Franklin Museum is in Philadelphia.
Yeah, like that. We went there in, anyways, like one of those doors.
Right.
Those. So, honestly, I thought that it was pretty cool that they actually got the door to fall. That the door, so like...
You laughed your butt off when he fixed the door, and you were like, I fixed the door. You were so happy for him, and then he shut it and it fell off the thing. You almost fell out of the couch laughing so hard.
Yeah, because he was like, so the door breaks because he's trying to do the door dog. And then he finally fixed it, and then he's like, yes. He walks inside, he shuts the door. Shit. I forgot that this house was like, ugh.
Yeah. All right, what else should we talk about?
Well, I kind of thought that it was pretty cool how he was trying to help him do the house, because he was doing like, because he was helping
You're saying
him.
she and he? I don't know who you mean.
Max.
Okay.
He was telling the guy who was painting, saying, well, I want this house to turn out well. Even if she's not going to live in it, I want it to turn out well so that they can actually sell it.
Oh, man, but when Max comes over to tell Walter that it was all a lie and try and save the relationship. Well, no, he doesn't ultimately tell Walter it was a lie. He just tells Walter he's making a huge mistake quitting on Shelley Long. But when Max walks out of the house, there's a painter just stabbing his paintbrush at the wall to like spackle paint on or something, I guess. I don't really know. But Walter's like, do paint, smooth strokes, up, down, paint.
And also don't smoke.
But he's such a perfectionist that he can't handle walking out and seeing somebody do a crappy job that he has to correct them on the spot. But like, he's a jerk. But he's also right. That guy was doing a horrible job painting. Take some pride in your work, man. Do a good job.
But honestly, he kind of did help it.
Yeah,
help
he did.
the house.
I
So
agree.
I don't think he's that selfish. I think he's just selfish about when it comes to like what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be selfish about it. But when it comes to someone else doing something that he thinks isn't going to help his situation, he's probably going to think about what's not going to help the situation. So he's still kind of thinking about himself, but he's also kind of trying to help the situation. So I think all he's doing... Actually, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I think that we should also wrap up the conversation. I think at the end of the day, for me, the money pit is an example of, for whatever reason you're in the problems that you're in.
You need to think hard.
You have to think about what's in front of you, and you have to tough it out, and you have to work your way through the challenges. And that can be true for relationships or home renovation.
True.
Like, my thing with relationships, I'll just say this, is that, like, the idea that you fall in love with somebody and then relationships are perfect forever, to me, I think is nonsense. I think a relationship that lasts is something that requires work and attention and communication every single day.
Yeah. And, well, I think that we should close this out because we're like 35 minutes in and then you still have to do your part.
I do.
So let's close this out. And guys, you'll see me next week in Small Soldiers.
That's right.
Which is Operation Dante Dive.
Yes, my hashtag. I love it. So I think Small Soldiers next week will wrap up Operation Dante Dive for now. There'll be more Joe Dante movies later on.
And we're gonna wrap it up sometime. We're gonna wrap up hashtag Operation Hanksify a little later, like June or July.
Yeah.
But it won't be the last of the Tom Hanks it won't be the last of Hanksify or Dante Dive.
I agree.
You'll see more of it, but it might just not be this year.
Okay.
You might see more of it maybe after August, but probably not before.
Yeah.
Because we've already have a schedule.
Yep. Claire and I have taken the step instead of sort of casually going from movie to movie.
We're gonna start at the end of
We've got a schedule planned out.
At the end of my part,
Yep.
when I leave, I'll be saying what I'll be next with.
Yep.
And instead of surprising you every week, because
Yep.
honestly, sometimes we're surprised ourselves.
Yeah,
with
because
what we
honestly,
pick.
sometimes on Sunday when we record, it's like, hey, what should we watch? Oh, let's watch this.
Let's watch this. No, let's watch this. Okay, I guess we can watch that.
So we'll be a lot better, I think, going forward about having an idea for what you guys will be able to listen to next week. Anything else that you want to say?
I just wanted to say that because June or something is coming up where it's Mom's birthday.
May. Mom's
yeah.
birthday's in May.
May. So you'll be expecting. So you're gonna meet our mom. You're gonna meet my mom and my mom. You're gonna meet my mom and my dad's wife. My dad's wife.
You got real issues with husband and wife. Are you sure you know what those words mean?
I know what they mean. It's just I keep getting confused. So you're gonna meet my dad's wife in May for her birthday, and the episode will be coming out on her birthday.
That's true.
Or maybe the day before. I don't know. I think it's going to be coming out on her birthday, so...
It won't be the last of Operation Hanksify, but it will be a Tom Hanks movie, so
Yes.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
All right, throw it to me on the other side, Claire.
Okay, see you later. I'll see you in Small Soldiers. Bye!
Honey, you're on my fingers.
Oh. Sorry.
And that's The Money Pit with Claire. I had a lot of fun watching this movie with her. I think that it's one of those movies that, like, the physical comedy and the silliness of the gags are enjoyable, whether or not you totally understand all of the relationship dynamics and challenges that they're going on. It's just fun. It's flat fun. It's got good comedy in it. It's got good silly effects. Tom Hanks doing a bunch of pratfalls is always going to be a winner. It's kind of interesting to look at some of this stuff too. Like, even the process that they go through buying a house is fundamentally different than the way things are now. Right now, like I said before, it's no secret. We're thinking about finding a new place to live. And, for us, we can just go on to any of the online repositories of all of the current sales, and I can select an area of the United States and just draw my own little rectangle and say, tell me all the houses that have these requirements, and I can get as specific as I want. Price range, bedrooms, baths, features, all that stuff, and it will just immediately give me a list of everything that's currently for sale within that area. When The Money Pit came out, that's just not how it worked. And the realtor, like, going through the listings and the lookbooks and finding all of these things and giving them the choices is such an enormous time consumption that you really couldn't find a place, I think, without somebody, unless you knew of something that was already for sale and you had seen it for yourself and inquired, who was listing it and who was responsible for selling it. So things like that, I think, are a little bit hard to relate. But then I also have a bit of a hard time sometimes too when it comes to explaining, like, the complex relational dynamics to Claire. I think, at 9, she's going to be 10 soon, but 10 years old, there's just some stuff that doesn't make sense. And I think a great example of that was, Walter saying that he would not be mad if Shelley Long slept with him. He just really wanted her to tell him the truth. And then when she does tell him the truth, as she knows it, he gets very upset and he loses his mind. How do you explain that to a 10-year-old? Because I think at 9 or 10, the inclination is to take people very much at their word in terms of what they say. And I think, part of the long-term scope of this project, where Claire and I talk and sort of figure out what's going on in movies, is to kind of give her some of those tools to dissect motivations of people that you wouldn't necessarily see at the surface level. And I don't really fault her for, kind of not really getting that. I think it's just a great example of places where sort of the understanding for kids in terms of what they're watching or what they're seeing becomes very difficult to see the fullness of. And I think that that's partly, number one, why it's so essential to have conversations with them about, what they thought and what they're thinking when they see something. Because they're totally different people. I've said that before on the podcast. Kids are their own people and they have their own personalities and their own thoughts and their own interests. And we should be better about giving them credit for having that fullness of character behind them. But I think it will also surprise you sometimes the way that kids interpret the surface level details. And that's where there's room to be confusion and where there's room for them to kind of make assumptions that are not totally correct, where just having a conversation that sort of shares some of the answers with them about those under the surface motivations can maybe help them be a little bit better at identifying where they're kind of not being totally accurate or, understanding what's going on. But I also don't want to be to Claire like, hey, Claire, you're totally wrong. You don't get what's going on. So as a parent, it's kind of a very tricky line to navigate, where you want to encourage them to see that there's a bigger picture out there that maybe they're not seeing, and appreciate that they're just not going to fully immediately grasp that bigger picture. Nobody does. I mean, shit, I'm 36 and I definitely still don't grasp that bigger picture. So, that's a lifelong project. I think the idea is to teach them that it's important to question the things going on around them, and interrogate them a little bit. Why is this happening? And I think that's what's really great about The Money Pit, is that I wasn't kind of being silly or anything like that. I think a major part of that movie is the importance of really thinking about what's in front of you, what are you seeing, what's happening, and what does it mean for your future. And it's hard. It's hard to answer those questions. We're talking about moving, and Danielle and I are trying to answer a number of those questions. Why are we moving? What are we trying to accomplish with our move? What are the major goals that we need to achieve? What are the major needs that we have for our family? How long are we going to be at this new place? What kind of things do we anticipate needing in the near term or in the midterm? So we have to get all these answers in place so that we understand what our needs are, what our feelings are, and how that's going to help us make a good decision that will set us up for the next 5 years or 10 years of our life. That's something that really takes a lot of time, I think, to practice and get right. And I certainly don't pretend to have gotten it right just yet. But that's all based in who, what, when, where, why, how. And how do we answer those questions about everything that we do in our regular lives? And so I think that's just part of what I wanted Claire to take away from this movie. But otherwise, that's all I really have to say about it. It was a lot of fun. She had a lot of fun with it. I'm not 100% sure that she gets what the sleeping with somebody thing means. I think she does, but I don't really know. And it's really not material whether or not she totally gets that for understanding the rest of the movie, I don't think. But she had fun with it. She laughed. I wasn't kidding, man. She laughed. She almost fell out of the couch a couple of times laughing so hard. She loved it. So I think it's a great one to share with the fam. And there's not really that much that's too hard to believe. It is out there, and it's very silly, but it's the kind of silly I think that everybody can engage with. And so as we said at the closeout of the last episode, Claire and I, we've got a schedule now of movies that I'm not going to share with you, but a tentative schedule laid out of selections through the end of July. And, we're going to get into a lot of fun movies. I think the hardest thing that I was having a problem with this is that, there are 100 movies right now that I just want to show to Claire and have that be this podcast. But she's 9, and we can't binge watch 100 movies in the next 30 days and do 100 episodes of podcasts. And even if we could, nobody would want to listen to that volume of content in the next 30 days either. And so I felt like we were just kind of like a leaf on a wind, just going from one thing to the next thing with no real kind of design or thematics in mind for what we're doing. So having a schedule, I hope, will make that a little bit easier. It will also make it a little bit easier for me to communicate with you all about what we're going to be watching next, and maybe share some details about the movies in advance that we're thinking about. So coming up next week is going to be Joe Dante's Small Soldiers, which will close out for now Operation Dante Dive. And then I think that after July, probably we'll go back and revisit a couple of his. I've got some movies scheduled for July, some summer blockbusters that I think Claire's going to really enjoy. And I think one that will tie nicely with that we might try and get to, the next Dante one that we might get to is maybe Piranha. I think would be a lot of fun. That'll do it for us in this particular episode. If you have not already followed us on Twitter, you can follow Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventures at BACEA Podcast on Twitter. You can follow me on all the social medias at WBDAS. And if you haven't subscribed to our iTunes feed yet, I sure would appreciate it if you would, and drop us a 5-star review. It's exactly the kind of help that only listeners like you can provide, and it is absolutely essential as we look to grow our audience and bring new people in for those reviews to come in steady. It helps make our podcast more visible to other people searching for topics like this. And then always, don't hesitate to share this. If you got friends with kids who are interested in this kind of topic, I don't think that there are too many people out there talking about sharing movies with their kids in this particular way. I sure don't know what the rules are of sharing movies with kids, and I think other parents might be interested in it too. So don't hesitate to pass this along to your friends if you think it's something that they might enjoy. As always, Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventures is an In the Mouth of Darkness production. You can follow that podcast at ITMODcast, that's ITMODcast on Twitter. You can find them at facebook.com/ITMODcast. Go like the page there. You can follow our feed there as well. And you can find the other dorks. Brad Gullickson at MouthDork on all social medias. Lisa Gullickson at WifeDork on all social medias. You can find Brian B. Young at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian B. Young on Facebook. And as always, you can find Darren at The Disco Dork Smith on all social medias. Thanks so much, and until next time.
Ha